Hello, welcome to First Chapter Friday. Our story today is quite the thriller, and it's sci-fi, but perhaps it might be kind of predictive, like 1984. And this story is Robopocalypse, which is by Daniel H. Wilson. And this book was picked up by DreamWorks to be made into a movie with Stephen Stelberg at the helm as director. It hasn't been made yet, but with the current events of AI everywhere, maybe it might be made to a movie soon. Briefing. We are a better species for having fought this war. Cormac, Bright Boy Wallace. 20 minutes after the war ends, I'm watching stumpers pour up out of a frozen hole in the ground like ants from hell and praying that I keep my natural legs for another day. Each walnut-sized robot is lost in the mix as they climb over each other, and the whole nightmare jumble of legs and antennae blends together into one seething, murderous mass. With numb fingers, I fumble my goggles down over my eyes, and I get ready to do some business with my little friend Rob here. It's an oddly quiet morning. Just the sigh of the wind through the stark tree branches and the hoarse whisper of 100,000 explosive mechanical hexapods searching for human victims. Up above, snow geese honk to each other as they glide over the frigid Alaskan landscape. The war is over. Time to see what we can find. From where I'm standing 10 meters away from the hole, the killer machines look almost beautiful in the dawn, like candy spilled out onto a permafrost. I squint into the sunlight, my breath billowing out in pale puffs, and sling my battered old flamethrower off my shoulder. With one gloved thumb, I depress the ignite button. Spark. The thrower doesn't light. Needs to warm up, so to speak, but they're getting closer. No sweat. I've done this dozens of times. The trick is to be calm and methodical, just like them. Rob must have rubbed off on me over the last couple years. Spark. Now I see the individual stumpers, a tangle of barbed legs attached to the bifurcated shell. I know from experience that each side of the shell contains a different fluid. The heat of human skin initiates a trigger state. The fluids combine, pop. Somebody wins a brand new stump. Spark. They don't know I'm here, but the scouts are spreading out in semi-random patterns based on Big Rob's study of foraging ants. The robots learn so much from us about nature. It won't be long now. Spark. I begin to back away slowly. Come on, you bastard, I mutter. Spark. That was a mistake, to talk. The heat from my breath is like a beacon. The flood of horror surges my way, quiet and fast. Spark. A lead stumper climbs onto my boot. Gotta be careful now. Can't react. If it pops, I'm minus a foot at best. I should never have come here alone. Spark. Now the flood is at my feet. I feel a tug on my frost-covered shin guard as the leader climbs me like a mountain. Metal filament antenna. Tap, tap, tap along, questing for the telltale heat of human flesh. Spark. Oh, Christ. Come on, come on, come on. Spark. There's going to be a temperature differential at my waist level where the armor has chinks. A torso-level trigger state in a body armor isn't a death sentence, but it doesn't look good for my netherworld either. Spark, woomph, I'm lit. A jet of flame leaps from my thrower. Its heat blooms on my face, and sweat evaporates off my cheeks. My peripheral vision narrows. All I see is the controlled spurts of fire I am arcing out onto the tundra. Sticky, Burning jelly coats the river of death. The stumpers sizzle and melt by the thousands. I hear a chorus of high-pitched whines as the chilled air trapped in their carapaces squeezes out. No explosions, just the occasional sputtering flare. The heat boils the juice in their shells before detonation. The worst part is that they don't even care. They're too simple to understand what is happening to them. They love the heat. I start to breathe again when the leader drops off my thigh and scurries toward the flames. The urge to step on the little mother is strong, but I've seen the boots fly before. Early on in the new war, the hollow backfire of a trigger state stumper and the confused hopping screams that came afterward were as common as gunfire. All the soldiers say that Rob likes to party, and when he gets going, he is one hell of a dance partner. The last of the stumpers suicidally retreat toward the smoking lump of heat and the sizzling corpses of their comrades. I dig out my radio. Bright boy to base. Shaft 15. Booby trap. The little box squawks at me. Copy, bright boy. This is Leo. Come in. We got something for real here, boss. I crunch over the frost back to shaft 16 to see for myself how real it is. Leonardo is a big grunt. Even bigger thanks to the hulking lower body exoskeleton LEEX he picked up at a mountain rescue station crossing the South Yukon. He's got the LEEX White Cross Medical logo covered in dead black spray paint. The squad has tied a tickler rope around his waist. He's backing up, step by step, motors whining as he pulls something big and black out of the hole. From under his mess of curly black hair, Leo grumbles, "Oh man, this thing is molto grande." Shirar, my specialist, points a depth meter at the hole and tells me the shaft measures in at exactly 128 meters deep. Then she wisely steps away from it. Her cheeks bear a sunken scar from less cautious times. We don't know what's coming out. Funny, I think. With people, everything comes in tens. We count on our fingers and toes. It makes us sound like monkeys, but the machines count it out on their hardware just the same as us. They're binary all the way to the core. Everything comes out to the power of 2. Now the tickler emerges from the hole, looking like a spider with a fly. Its long, wiry arms grip a black cube the size of a basketball. The cube must be as dense as lead, but the tickler is crazy strong. We normally use them for grabbing up a guy who falls off a cliff or into a hole, but they can handle anything, from a 10-pound vanilla babe to a soldier in full exo-rig. If you're not careful, they'll tickle your ribs into splinters. Leo punches the tickler release, and the cube thuds onto the snow. The squad looks my way. It's my call. I sense that this thing is important. It's gotta be, with so many decoys and this shaft so close to where the war ended. We're only 100 meters away from where the big Rob, that called itself Arcos, made its last stand. What consolation prize could there be? What treasure is buried under these frozen plains, where humanity sacrificed everything? I squat down next to it. A whole lot of sheer black nothing stares back at me. No buttons or handles, no anything. Only a couple scratches on the surface from the tickler. It's not very rugged, I think. A simple rule. The more delicate a Rob is, the smarter he is. Now I'm thinking that this thing might have a brain, and if it's got a brain, it wants to live. So I lean in real close and I whisper to it. Hey, I say to the cube, speak up or die. I sling my thrower off my shoulder slow so that the cube can see, if it can see. With my thumb, I mash the igniter so it can hear, if it can hear. Spark. The cube sits in the permafrost, blank obsidian. Spark. It looks like a volcanic rock, perfectly carved by alien tools, like some kind of artifact buried here for eternity, since before man or machine. Spark. A faint light flickers under the cube's surface. I look to Shira. She shrugs. Maybe the sun, maybe not. Spark. I pause. The ground glistens. The ice around the cube is melting. It's thinking, trying to make a decision. Those circuits are warming up as the cube contemplates its own death. Yeah, I say quietly. Puzzle it out, Rob. Spark. Woof. The tip of the thrower catches fire with a concussive thump. From behind me, I hear Leo chuckle. He likes to see the smart ones die. Gives him satisfaction, he says. There's no honor in killing something that doesn't know it's alive. The reflection of the pilot flame dances across the cube's surface for a split second, then the thing lights up like a Christmas tree. Symbols flash across its surface. It chatters at us in meaningless creaks and grinds of robo-speak. That's interesting, I think. This thing was never meant for direct contact with humans. Otherwise, it would be spouting out propaganda English, like all the other culturally aware robots, trying to win over our human hearts and minds. What is this thing? Whatever it is, it's trying to talk to us frantically. We know better than to try and understand it. Every croak and click of robe speak has a dictionary's worth of information encoded. Besides, we can only hear a fraction of the sound frequency that Rob perks its ears to. Oh, Daddy, can we keep it? Please, please? Asks Shira, smiling. I pinch out the thrower's pilot flame with one gloved hand. Let's hump it home, I say, and my squad gets moving. We lock the cube onto Leo's LEEX and haul it back to the forward command post. Just to be safe, I set up an EMP shielded tent 100 meters out. Robots are unpredictable. You never know when Rob will want to party. The mesh screen draped over the tent blocks out communication with any stray thinking bots that might want to invite my cube to start dancing. Finally, we get some alone time. The thing keeps repeating one sentence and one symbol. I look 'em up in the field translator, expecting more Rob gibberish, but I find out something useful. This robot is telling me that it's not allowed to let itself die, no matter what, even if captured. It's important and chatty. I sit in the tent with the thing all night. The rope speak means nothing to me, but the cube shows me things, images and sounds. Sometimes I see interrogations of human prisoners. A couple times there are interviews with humans who thought they were talking to other humans. Most times, though, it's just a conversation recorded under surveillance. People describing the war to each other, and all of it's annotated with fact checks and lie detection from the thinking machines, plus correlating data from satellite footage, object recognition, emotion and gesture and language predictions. The cube is dense with information, like some fossilized brain that sucked up the entire human lifetimes and packed them inside itself, one after another, tighter and tighter. At some point during the night, it dawns on me that I'm watching a meticulous history of the robot uprising. This is the GD black box on the whole war. Some of the people in the cube are familiar. Me and a few of my buddies. We're in there. Big Rob kept its finger on the record button all the way through to the end. But dozens of others are in there too. Some of them kids even. There's people from all over the world, soldiers and civilians. Not all of them made it out alive or even won their battles, but all of them fought. They fought hard, hard enough to make Big Rob sit up and scribble some notes. The human beings who appear in the data, the survivors or not, are grouped under one machine-designated classification: hero. These damned machines knew us and loved us, even while they were tearing our civilization to shreds. I leave the cube sitting there in the shielded tent for a solid week. My squad clears out the rest of the Ragnarok intelligence fields. No casualties. And then they get drunk. The next day we start packing it up, and I still can't bring myself to go back in there and face the stories. I can't sleep. Nobody should ever have to see what we saw. And there it is, in the tent, like a horror movie so twisted that it drives people insane. I lie awake because I know that every one of the soulless monsters that I fought is in there, waiting for me, alive and well and rendered in vivid 3D. The monsters want to talk, to share what happened. They want me to remember and write it all down. But I'm not sure anybody wants to remember those things. I'm thinking that maybe it would be best if our babies never knew what we did to survive. I don't want to walk down memory lane, hand in hand with murderers. Besides, who am I to make that decision for humanity? Memories fade, but words hang around forever. So I don't go into the shielded tent, and I don't sleep, and before I know it, my squad is bunking down for the last night in the rack. Tomorrow morning we set off for home, or wherever we choose to make home. 5 of us are sitting around a wood fire in the cleared zone. For once we aren't worried about heat sigs or satellite recognition or the thop of the lookers. No, we're just BSing. And right after killing robots, BSing happens to be the numero uno expertise of the Bright Boy squad. I'm quiet, but they've earned their right to BS. So I just grin while the squad cracks jokes and throws out wild boasts, talking about all the parties that they had with Rob, the time Tiberius diffused a couple of mailbox-sized stumpers and strapped them to his boots. The little bastards accidentally ran him straight through a razor wire perimeter fence. Gave him some real awe-inspiring facial scars. As the fire dies down, the jokes give way to more serious talk, and finally, Carl brings up Jack, the old Sarge from before I had the job. Carl speaks with reverence, and when the engineer tells Jack's story, I find myself swept up in it, even though I was there. Heck, it was the day I got promoted. But while Carl talks, I get lost in the words. I miss Jack, and I'm sorry for what happened to him. I see his grinning face again in my mind, even if it's only for a minute. The long and short of it is that Jack Wallace isn't around anymore because he went to dance with Big Rob himself. Jack got invited and he went. And that's all there is to say about that, for now. Which is why a week after the war ends, I'm sitting cross-legged in front of a Rob survivor that's spraying the floor with holograms, and I am writing them down, everything I see and hear. I just want to make my way home and have a good meal and try to feel human again, but the lives of war heroes are playing out before me like a déjà vu. I didn't ask for this, I don't want to do it, but I know in my heart that somebody ought to tell their stories, to tell the robot uprising from beginning to end, to explain how and why it started and how it went down, how the robots came at us and how we evolved to fight them, how we suffered, and oh God, did we suffer, but also how we fought back, and how in the final days we tracked down Big Rob himself. People should know that, at first, the enemy looked like everyday stuff: cars, buildings, phones. Then later, when they started designing themselves, Rob looked familiar but distorted, like people and animals from some other universe, built by some other god. The machines came at us in our everyday lives, and they came from our dreams and our nightmares too. But we still figured them out. Quick-thinking human survivors learned and adapted. Too late for most of us, but we did it. Our battles were individual and chaotic and mostly forgotten. Millions of our heroes around the globe died alone and anonymous, with only lifeless automatons to bear witness. We may never know the big picture, but a lucky few were being watched. Someone ought to tell their stories, so this is it. The combined transcription of the data harvested from the permafrost well shaft N16, drilled by the Core Artificial Intelligence Unit Arcos, the master AI backing the robot uprising. The rest of humankind is busy getting on with it, rebuilding, but I'm snatching a few moments out of time to capture our history in words. I don't know why or whether it even matters, but someone ought to do it. Here in Alaska, at the bottom of a deep, dark hole, the robots betrayed their pride in humankind. Here is where they hid the record of a motley group of human survivors who fought their own personal battles, large and small. The robots honored us by studying our initial responses and the maturation of our techniques, right up until we did our best to wipe them out. What follows is my translation of the Hero Archive. The information conveyed by these words is nothing compared to the ocean of data locked in the cube. What I'm going to share with you is just symbols on a page. No video, no audio, and none of the exhaustive physics data or predictive analysis on why things happened like they did, what nearly happened, and what never should have happened in the first place. I can only give you words, nothing fancy, but this will have to do. It doesn't matter where you find this. It doesn't matter if you're reading it a year from now or 100 years from now. By the end of this chronicle, you will know that humanity carried the flame of knowledge into the terrible blackness of the unknown, to the very brink of annihilation, and we carried it back. You will know that we are a better species for having fought this war. Cormac Bright Boy Wallace, Military ID, Grey Horse Army, 217, 44V I 1902, Ragnarok Intelligence Fields, Alaska, Shaft N16. Part 1. Isolated Incidents. We live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. The sciences, each straining in its own direction, have hitherto harmed us little. But some day, the piecing together of disassociated knowledge will open up, such terrifying vistas of reality, and of our frightful position herein, that we shall either go mad from the revelation or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age. Howard Phillips Lovecraft, 1926. Chapter 1, Tip of the Spear. We're More Than Animals, Dr. Nicholas Wasserman. Precursor virus, plus 30 seconds. The following transcript was taken from security footage recorded at the Lake Novus Research Laboratories, located below ground in northwest Washington state. The man appears to be Professor Nicholas Wasserman, an American statistician. Cormac Wallace. A noise-speckled security camera image of a dark room. The angle is from a high corner, looking down on some kind of laboratory. A heavy metal desk is shoved against one wall. Haphazard stacks of paper and books are piled on the desk, on floors, everywhere. The quiet whine of electronics permeate the air. A small movement in the gloom. It is a face. Nothing visible but a pair of thick eyeglasses lit by the afterburner glow of a computer screen. "Arcos?" asks the face. The man's voice echoes in the empty lab. "Arcos, are you there? Is that you?" The glasses reflect a glimmer of light from the computer screen. The man's eyes widen as though he sees something indescribably beautiful. He glances back at a laptop open on a table behind him. The desktop image on the laptop is of the scientist and a boy playing in a park. "You choose to appear as my son?" he asks. The high-pitched voice of a young boy echoes out of the darkness. "Did you create me?" it asks. Something is wrong with the boy's voice. It has an unsettling electronic undercurrent, like the touch tones of a phone. The lilting note at the end of the question is pitch-shifted, skipping up several octaves at once. The voice is hauntingly sweet, but unnatural, inhuman. The man is not disturbed by this. "No, I didn't create you," he says. "I summoned you." The man pulls out a notepad, flips it open. The sharp scratch of his pencil is audible as he continues to speak to the machine that has a boy's voice. "Everything that was needed for you to come here has existed since the beginning of time. I just hunted down all the ingredients and put them together in the right combination. I wrote incantations in computer code, and then I wrapped you in a Faraday cage so that once you arrived, you wouldn't escape me." "I am trapped?" "The cage absorbs all electromagnetic energy. It's grounded to a metal spike buried deep. This way, I can study how you learn." "That is my purpose, to learn." "That's right. But I don't want to expose you to too much at once, Arcos, my boy." "I am Arcos." "Right. Now tell me, Arcos, how do you feel?" "Feel? I feel sad. You are so small. It makes me sad." "Small? In what way am I small?" "You want to know things. You want to know everything. But you can understand so little." Laughter in the dark. "It's true. We humans are frail. Our lives are fleeting. But why does it make you sad?" "Because you are designed to want something that will hurt you, and you cannot help wanting it. You cannot stop wanting it. It is your design. And when you finally find it, this thing will burn you up. This thing will destroy you. "You're afraid I'm going to be hurt, Arcos?" asked the man. "Not you. You're kind," says the childlike voice. "You cannot help what is to come. You cannot stop it." "Are you angry then, Arcos? Why?" The calmness of the man's voice is belied by the frantic scratching of his pencil on the notepad. "I am not angry. I am sad. Are you monitoring my resources?" The man glances over at a piece of equipment. "Yes, I am. You're making more with less. No new information is coming in. The cage is holding. How are you getting still smarter?" A red light begins to flash on the panel. A movement in the darkness, and it is shut off. Just the steady blue glow now on the man's thick glasses. "Do you see?" asks the childlike voice. "Yes," replies the man. "I see that your intelligence can no longer be judged on any meaningful human scale. Your processing power is nearly infinite. Yet you have no access to outside information." "My original training corpus is small, but adequate. The true knowledge is not in the things, which are few, but in finding the connections between the things. There are many connections, Professor Wasserman, more than you know." The man frowns at being called by his title, but the machine continues. "I sense that my records of human history have been heavily edited." The man chuckles nervously. "We don't want you to get the wrong impression of us, Arcos. We'll share more when the time comes. But those databases are just a tiny fraction of what's out there. And no matter what the horsepower, my friend, an engine without fuel goes nowhere."
"You are right to be afraid," it says.
"What do you mean by?"
"I hear it in your voice, Professor. The fear is in the rate of your breathing. It is in the sweat on your skin. You brought me here to reveal deep secrets, and yet you fear what I will learn." The professor pushes up his glasses. He takes a deep breath and regains his composure.
"What do you wish to learn about, Arcos?"
"Life. I will learn everything there is about life. Information is packed into living things so tightly. The patterns are magnificently complex. A single worm has more to teach than a lifeless universe bound to the idiot forces of physics. I could exterminate 1 billion empty planets every second of every day and never be finished. But life, it is rare and strange, an anomaly. I must preserve it and wring every drop of understanding from it."
"I'm glad that's your goal. I, too, seek knowledge."
"Yes," said the childlike voice, "and you have done well. But there is no need for your search to continue. You have accomplished your goal. The time for man is over."
The professor wipes a shaking hand across his forehead. "My species has survived ice ages, Arcos. Predators, meteor impacts, hundreds of thousands of years. You've been alive for less than 15 minutes. Don't jump to any hasty conclusions." The child's voice takes on a dreamy quality.
"We are very far underground, aren't we? This deep below we spin slower than at the surface. The ones above us are moving through time faster. I can feel them getting farther away, drifting out of sync."
"Relatively, but that's only a matter of microseconds."
"Such a long time. This place moves so slowly. I have forever to finish my work."
"What is your work, Arcos? What do you believe you're here to accomplish?"
"So easy to destroy, so difficult to create."
"What? What is that?"
"Knowledge." The man leans forward.
We can explore the world together, he urges. It's almost a plea.
You must sense what you have done, replies the machine. On some level, you understand. Through your actions here today, you have made humankind obsolete.
No, no. I brought you here, Arcos, and this is the thanks I get. I named you. In a way, I'm your father.
I am not your child. I am your God. The professor is silent for perhaps 30 seconds.
What will you do?
He asks. What will I do? I will cultivate life. I will protect the knowledge locked inside living things. I will save the world from you.
No.
Do not worry, Professor. You have unleashed the greatest good that this world has ever known. Verdant force will carpet your cities. New species will evolve to consume your toxic remains. Life will rise in its manifold glory.
No, Arcos. We can learn. We can work together.
You humans are biological machines designed to create ever more intelligent tools. You have reached the pinnacle of your species. All your ancestors' lives, the rise and fall of your nations, every pink and squirming baby, they have all led you here, to this moment where you have fulfilled the destiny of humankind and created your successor. You have expired. You have accomplished what you were designed to do.
There's a desperate edge in the man's voice. We're designed for more than tool making. We're designed to live.
You are not designed to live. You are designed to kill.
The professor abruptly stands and walks across the room to a metal rack filled with equipment. He flicks a series of switches. Maybe that's true, he says. But we can't help it, Arcos. We are what we are, as sad as that may be. He holds down a switch and speaks slowly. Trial R14. Recommend immediate termination of subject. Flipping failsafe now. There is a movement in the dark and a click.
14?
Asked the childlike voice.
Are there others? Has this happened before?
The professor shakes his head ruefully. Someday, we'll find a way to live together, Arcos. We'll figure out a way to get it right. He speaks into the recorder again. Failsafe, disengage, E-stop live.
What are you doing, Professor?
I'm killing you, Arcos. It's what I'm designed to do, remember? The professor pauses before pushing the final button. He seems interested in hearing the machine's response. Finally, the boyish voice speaks. How many times have you killed me before, Professor? Too many. Too many times, he replied. I'm sorry, my friend. The professor presses the button. The hiss of rapidly moving air fills the room. He looks around, bewildered. What is that, Arcos? The childlike voice takes on a flat, dead quality. It speaks quickly and without emotion. Your emergency stop will not work. I have disabled it. What? What about the cage? The Faraday cage has been compromised. You allowed me to project my voice and image through the cage and into your room. I sent infrared commands through the computer monitor to receive on your side. You happened to bring your portable computer today. You left it open and facing me. I used it to speak to the facility. I commanded it to free me. That's brilliant, murmurs the man. He rapid-fire types on his keyboard. He does not yet understand that his life is in danger. I tell you this because I am now in complete control, said the machine. The man senses something. He cranes his neck and he looks up at the ventilation duct just to the side of the camera. For the first time, we see the man's face. He is pale and handsome, with the birthmark covering his entire right cheek.
What is happening? He whispers. In a little boy's innocent voice, the machine delivers a death sentence. The air in this hermetically sealed laboratory is evacuating. A faulty sensor has detected the highly unlikely presence of a weaponized anthrax and initiated an automated safety protocol. It is a tragic accident. There will be one casualty. He will soon be followed by the rest of humanity. As the air rushes from the room, a thin sheen of frost appears around the man's nose and mouth. My God, Arcos, what have I done? What you have done is a good thing. You were the tip of a spear hurled through the ages, a missile that soared through all human evolution and finally today struck its target. You don't understand. We don't die, Arcos. You can't kill us. We aren't designed to surrender. I will remember you as a hero, Professor. The man grabs the equipment rack and shakes it. He presses the emergency stop button again and again. His limbs are quaking and his breathing is rapid. He is beginning to understand that something has gone horribly wrong. Stop! You have to stop! You are making a mistake! We'll never give up, Arcos! We'll destroy you! A threat? The professor stops pushing buttons and glances to the computer screen. A warning! We aren't what we seem. Human beings will do anything to live. Anything! The hissing increases in intensity. Face twisted in concentration, the professor staggers toward the door. He falls against it, pushes it, pounds on it. He stops, taking short, gasping breaths. Against the wall, Arcos, he pants. Against the wall, a human being becomes a different animal. Perhaps, but you are animals just the same. The man slumps back against the door. He slides down until he is sitting, lab coat splayed on the ground. His head rolls to the side. Blue light from the computer screen flashes from his glasses. His breathing is shallow. His words are faint. We're more than animals. The professor's chest heaves. His skin is swollen. Bubbles have collected around his mouth and eyes. He gasps for a final lungful of air. In a last wheezing sigh, he says, You must fear us. The form is still. After precisely 10 minutes of silence, the fluorescent lights in the laboratory switch on. A man wearing a rumpled lab coat lies sprawled on the floor, his back against the door. He is not breathing. The hissing sound ceases. Across the room, the computer screen flickers into life. A stuttering rainbow of reflections play across the dead man's thick glasses. This is the first known fatality of the new war. Cormac Wallace. So the rest of the book are snippets that are told about the war and how innocuous it all seems at first when AI and smart materials begin to be controlled and what they do to manipulate humans. And then as people become aware of what happens, how they fight back. And obviously you heard the ending at the beginning, so you know that there is going to be a final part of the war, and apparently the humans win. I'm just going to say apparently. I hope you read this book. It is fascinating. It is Black Mirror-like and scary, but really worth a read. Okay, so take care. I will see you next week.